Is Helldivers meta killing the game? I would say not, but I feel like Meta Elitists are... So let's dive into this. Right now, we have a major issue with Helldivers where people are starting to kick other people for not having proper meta builds. Let's play devil's advocate for a minute, right? Let's play devil's advocate. But if you have people and you're doing 7, 8s, and 9s, and you don't bring something that can deal with a Titan or something that can deal with heavy armor, are you bringing anything to the table? And that's really the big question that people have now, is that you get so overwhelmed and so swarmed on the higher difficulties. If you don't bring the proper build, what use are you? And that's a different perspective to look at the game than, lol, let's have fun. But it's a weird conundrum because honestly, what it all comes down to is gameism. The Breaker is godly. No other weapon compares to it. So in reality, the other weapons kind of need a buff to have a variety of weapons being utilized at the high-end tiers. I think these people are kicking teammates that don't have meta loadouts. I think that's not the way to have a welcoming community. But at the same time, the balance I feel like is kind of poor. You know, there's a lot of stratagems, and there's a majority of the weapons are just trash. They don't do anything unless you're in freaking medium. If you're on a 4. Metagems are silly and it's meant more for teamwork. Teammates let you help them get through most of the stuff first, then kick you as they're about to extract. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the big issue, right? That there should be an... And this is weird part, right? Because as a dev, how do you curb toxic interactions? I think that's kind of the biggest question here. And I think there's a multiple levers that they can do. They can make it so you can't kick somebody, you know, once you're, 10, 15 minutes into the game, or when you have completed the objective, right? If you've completed the objective for the whole match, you can't kick anybody then. You know, the devs can be that heavy-handed, or they can start buffing other weapons so there's more weapon diversity in the game, like the flamethrower. The flamethrower is amazing and I love it, but doesn't really do much at the end game. Hell, even the autocannon bounces off heavy armor and is useless unless you're popping something in. I think there's like 2 separate problems that we have with this. One is meta loadouts and one is toxic community. And I think there's going to be a different way to solving both of those. But let's dive into the article. Let's see what they have to say, and then we'll kind of recap and kind of give our 2 cents on it. So Helldivers has only been out for a few weeks and already has players kicking their teammates before games even get going because they're not bringing so-called meta builds to the party. As Helldivers 2 players level up and seek out the rarest resources exclusive to harder difficulties, their loadouts become increasingly serious business. And I feel like this is pretty much the norm, right? Bring a railgun, bring orbital railgun, or bring the 500 kg, bring a laser, bring a shield, and there's your build. And that's kind of what you do when you run into the high levels. Yeah, but I would argue that shield and railgun shouldn't be the norm. There should be machine gun. There should be really just any of the ARs. I would love to see an AR in there somewhere, possibly. They need to buff those weapons massively to actually be useful. But the community has declared a handful of must-haves for higher difficulties, and that's rightfully so. In every type of team-based game, there is always going to be a consensus on what is useful and what is not. And I think that's a good thing for the devs to kind of consider once they start diving and looking into balance. I would see autocannons be able to do damage to Bio Titans. I would love if the autocannon could do damage to the Bio Titan, but you have to hit it in very specific spots where, unlike the rail cannon, which is armor piercing, can just destroy a Titan. You can do a rail cannon in its mouth at the perfect time and it one-shots a Titan. So there's like really cool mechanics, but I wonder if more items need medium or heavy armor piercing to be viable. So I think there's a different mentality when you get into the higher echelons of the tiers here, and I don't think everybody has that mentality. And I think the same thing happened in Vermintide too, but one post on the Helldivers Steam forum is getting attention for declaring the need to set the standard for 8+ missions if they're using anything but the right breaker kick. And I would argue this is the attitude right here. Like this is the worst attitude for a game that's supposed to be like a community 4-player game. You gotta have like 2 sides of this, right? You gotta understand both sides. Someone doesn't want to waste 40 minutes of their time playing a game to fail horribly because someone didn't bring the right loadout. And that kind of comes down to game balance. That doesn't really come down to... It also comes down to like people valuing their time. Like you don't want a 40-minute fest. But again, everybody kind of has different goals when they're playing a game like this. But we need to set a standard for higher rank pub pickup group play. You have your silly builds that are weak guns on your own friend's time. If you're not using these things, you are trolling and should be kicked. Like that is toxic. But again, like what would you guys suggest on how to solve that? But like someone can't bring a Tesla cannon like the one that you equip, right? Because it's trashed here, and you're doing a 9, you're doing a Helldiver. Like, should they be kicked because they're not bringing the right gun and they can't be effective with the team with a group play settings, right? Should everybody be forced to be in a meta build so they can be useful when you're at difficulties that high? I would say no, but it's definitely frustrating too, right? It'd be nice if there were mood filters in matchmaking, like what type of game you're looking for. That wouldn't be bad. To be fair, having a meta build doesn't mean anything. People can still suck with the best gear, but at least you could semi-pierce an armor, right? I think the big issue with this game right now is that there are certain mobs that have medium or heavy armor, and you can't pierce them. You can't do anything with half the weapons. You can sit with a flamethrower all day long on something heavy and it just ignores you. It just flat out ignores you. I think there definitely needs to be a little bit of a rebalancing when it comes to weapons. Like I personally, I would love to use the revolver, but the revolver shoots so slow that it is so much better for me to use the little mini Uzi because I can just like jump on the ground and spray to save my own ass than it is to bring a revolver and shoot once every couple seconds. By then I'm dead. But I think there are certain weapons for certain scenarios, and in the higher level tier of play, there is going to be mass swarms. And I don't feel like certain weapons, like all weapons should not be like mass AoE clearing weapons, right? Because like things aren't gonna get easier from here on out. Like we're about to get a new race coming in, and they're way worse than anything else we've ever experienced. We're gonna get mechs, they've confirmed that, but honestly, there needs to be an AR that's useful. It can't just be a shotgun that acts like an AR. Either balance out weapons or add more weapons in that are useful. So there is variation in the stratagems, variations in the weapons. Because yeah, I mean, I find myself always bringing the same couple things always. I don't ever vary from it because why would I? I would love to bring a flamethrower. I would love it. It would be so much fun. I honestly felt like I had the most fun in the first couple levels when we were trying to figure out weapons and we were using all random and it was great. Like I set the ground on fire behind me and then walked into it and killed myself. Like those are great moments. And now it's like, oh, let me get my real gun. Pew, 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 pew. You know, and it's like, okay, cool. Hey, it's dead. Yay. Again, I think there's two separate problems here that they're trying to solve. And hopefully we do see some kind of patch here. I honestly feel like in the next couple patches, there needs to be a balancing tweak. It's okay, Ark, you're still perfectly capable of dying to your own guns without flamethrowers. Thanks. Ah! Almost. And you don't want to spend 40 minutes losing either. Yeah, that's not a good experience to have either. So one such player called Root Access who took to Reddit to express their disbelief. Apparently people are already starting to get kicked in higher difficulties for not using certain loadouts. And they said, sounds absolutely ridiculous to me and you're not competing on some kind of leaderboard against other Helldivers. It's okay not to do a mission 100% or to fail a mission. Just revel in the chaos and have fun playing the game. And I think that's honestly the right attitude to have. Just have fun in the chaos, play the game, but you know, you want to extract. You want to take the materials that you found in the game with you. So honestly, I think it's just a balancing issue. I think it's, you know, quelling the toxic nature. So people that are kicking people, if they kick too many people, right? Yeah, maybe put your shit on private. Some kind of punishment for kicking people right before you extract, because that's pretty scummy. The other part is just balancing out the damn game. And I think give them time for that. I think they've been overwhelmed with the server issues. It's a weird like mentality of power gaming that I feel like YouTube and content creators specifically have made so much worse. There's just been a ton of YouTube videos and you know, those tell you, do this meta build, do this meta build, right? Because you don't want to like figure stuff out for yourself, which is perfectly fine too. But I think people have to understand that there is no leaderboards, right? It is a sink or swim as a whole Helldiver community because there's no leaderboards. And I think they should never add leaderboards. That's why they said they never add PvP. But to be fair, this debate has been approaching meme status with Helldivers community, shaming Helldivers for their loadout choices, shaming Helldivers for ignoring Automaton's attack. I think this is probably the best thing to think about. And we're definitely really guilty of this, right? We're so guilty of this, of just being like, you know what? I don't want to deal with mech boys, with mech daddies. Mech daddies are punching my shit in, so I don't really want to do it. In response to all the meta slaves, don't knock it till you thoroughly test it. I feel like your first balancing patch should not be to nerf things. It should be to buff other things to be at that same level, not to just start slapping guns down and making them all useless. Perhaps we'll instead seek to buff so-called weak stratagems to make them more viable. Perhaps a combination of the two is in order. The goal of this, just don't be a toxic piece of shit. Enjoy the game. That's all you need to do. Just enjoy the game. And I think you'll be good. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this video. What you guys think of the Helldivers 2 meta, and if you're kind of following it, or are you just doing your own thing and just like flamethrowing everything? But we record these live. Make sure to come say hi on Twitch, on Twitter, Discord, all that jazz, and I will see you in the next video.